Hello, welcome to Be Well and Thrive. My name is Dr. Bill Renkus with Movement First Physical Therapy, and today I have Patrick Dellapace, who is the owner of Patrick Dellapace Training, which is a minimalist training focusing on maximizing the efficiency of the body through various functional motions and exercises. Patrick has been in the fitness industry for 10 plus years, where he has been both a trainer, an educator, and manager of trainers. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to helping people improve their body. Uh, Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a busy life. You, as I, are both as a father of a young one, and those times are so important to be with them. So I really appreciate your time. And what I'd love you to do is just kind of introduce yourself, give everybody a brief introduction as to kind of where you came from, what got you into the fitness world, and kind of what led you to where you are now.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate the introduction. So I am originally from Miami, Florida, and don't judge me because I'm a Floridian, okay? But I'm originally from Miami, Florida, and I grew up really kind of doing a little bit of a lot of things. I grew up with very active parents, and everything from sports, your normal sports, to surfing, to just traveling to multiple places with the family outdoors, and doing various hiking and outdoor things. That was early on, and I eventually started specializing in basketball. Despite my height, for listeners, I'm only about 5'8", so I had to somewhat be quick and agile, but more so smart than anything else. And so specialize in that, and work to eventually play college basketball, a collegiate athlete in college, and then kind of around the maybe senior year, as I started realizing that I wasn't going to be playing collegiate sports anymore, I still had a desire to train in some fashion or form. And so I picked up marathoning, or did my first marathon. And I'd always enjoyed running, and when I was growing up, and it was always an accessory to playing basketball as well, training for that. And so ended up running my first marathon. It went terrible, and I went into full body cramps about mile 18. Finished the race, but it was horrendous. And then because of that, most people, I think, would say like, oh, that's going to be it for me. Well, I decided, I was like, after that, I was kind of like, well, what's next? What else is there? So I ended up from there moving out to California, and I had a desire to continue running a lot, and started into ultra running. And for those that don't know what ultra running is, it's anything beyond the marathon distance. So I started running and doing a lot of races, from the 50K, which is about 31 miles, all the way up to eventually the 100-miler. And really was doing a lot of ultra running for about 7 years or so. And then from there, got married, and ultra running started gradually becoming a little less life at that time. But during that time, I was also working in the running industry too. And so I was managing stores, and doing a lot of work things as well. And through all of that, within that, I had always worked on my strength in one form or fashion, making sure that I stayed strong through fitness. And after leaving the running industry, after about 10 years, I went into managing gyms. So we were doing a lot of boot camp type fitness, and a lot of a mixture, I guess you could say, between boot camp stuff and CrossFit stuff. And so there's a lot of different types of things that we were doing there. But from there, I ended up making my way down to North Carolina, and I had lived all across the U.S. And here I was doing some managing of gym as well, and but all the while, really refining what kind of fitness methods that I like, I prefer, I think work, and what I enjoy ultimately the most. So preparation for it was, you know, it's it's all encompassing, really. You've got to have time is the first thing, and nowadays it's a lot more difficult. As you know, with a little kid. I have two kids now, and in order to be a good dad, in order to be a good dad, it's I got to be home. A little bit more for them. So anyway, it was very time consuming, but it was very, very enjoyable. I mean, like if I could go and, train for a race, in a couple of months, I would definitely do it. I just love being out there in nature. And a lot of times ultra running takes you to kind of wild places because you're on your feet a lot and you have to find long trails, and you have to a lot of it is off-road, and so you get to see remote places that a lot of people or most people don't go to. And so that's the thing that I loved about it. And but it was it was, I mean, a lot of time on your feet. It wasn't uncommon for training runs to be 6 to 9 hours long on a Saturday. um, so anyway, so a lot of that, and also a lot of eating, which is probably up there as one of my favorite passions in life. Yeah, so I would say like there's nothing like it to where whenever you're getting to those distances, 50 miles, and then pushing yourself further than that, and getting to the 100 mile where you wake up at dark and you finish at dark, or you finish at light the following morning. So it's one of those things to where like it is it is more, I mean, your body's going to wear out physically, and that'll wear out quicker, but you got to be mentally prepared. And I think that has really helped me, the mental side, to be able to push through a lot of things that I might not normally push through. And so while you think you're just training your body, you're actually sometimes training your mind more. And you're just, yeah, there's only so much pain you can feel, and it just gets numb after a while. You're just like, okay, now it's time. They say you run in ultra running, you run the first 50 miles with your legs, the last 50 with your mind. And so it's so completely true. Yeah, so I think minimalist can be a pretty in vogue word nowadays in some way, shape, or fashion. um, what that kind of really means to me is that what can I do with what I have surrounding me, or what can I do with little tools that I have available to me, and how can I maximize those things to my greatest potential? So I don't know if that helps as a more of a clear kind of definition. And but just say, for instance, okay, during these times of COVID, right? It's like a lot of gyms around here haven't been open, a lot of facilities haven't, or a lot of them have been doing outdoor classes. But the thing is that we've had a lot less equipment at our disposal, right? And sometimes people just throw in the towel and say, "Oh man, I don't have a barbell." Right? Oh man, I don't have, the kettlebells that I've been using for the past 5 years, right? I can't do fitness anymore. So what it is, hey, what do I have around me? And first of all, let's start with body weight, right? Like there's so much that you can do with your own body weight, and it's ridiculous. And I think the more you can maximize um, what you can do with that, the better off you can be, the stronger you can be, and you don't really need to be dependent upon a lot of things. So anyway, that's just a scenario or an idea, but really kind of how I got into this, I think it really stems back to my childhood in a way, and I would say that it probably started in the kitchen with my mom, and uh, I know you're looking at me and you're like, okay, where's this gonna go, right? So, so so my mom is an amazing chef. I mean, she all our lives, like she's the woman that, like, if you're going to host a party, you want my mom doing the cooking, right? Like she is the one that you want doing the cooking that day. Everyone loves it. So I am I learned from her just by watching her, and then also her bringing me into the kitchen and teaching me how to cook, pretty much from scratch. And a lot of it was like, okay, we don't have this tonight, we don't have that tonight. What can we make with what we have in the fridge, right? And so really that served me well going into college, where I had like absolutely no money whatsoever. And I'm like, I still need to eat, right? So how can I maximize this can of, beans and corn and, whatever I have on the shelf tonight? And so I think the mindset really kind of started at an early age with some of that stuff. And I just remember like the most fun times that I had, and this goes outside of the kitchen now, the most fun times that I had were things that I was doing actively with not being inside necessarily, not being in a gym lifting weights, which I did a lot of as a younger guy. But it was like outside climbing trees. Like I was like in the trees constantly as a kid. And I remember my mom always having to call me out of the trees for, to come in for dinner. Or, it was swimming in the lake behind our house that definitely had alligators in it, and so I just looked at it as, like agility practice, right? You never saw them, but they were probably in there. But there are all these things around me that as I grew up, right, like I would go and I was doing a lot of trail running growing up, and I would run through the woods and I would see a rock and I would begin lifting a rock and I'd begin carrying a rock, uh, and I wasn't looking at my watch saying, oh, I got to do this for, 30 minutes. So, I don't have to do this for the next 30 seconds. I just picked it up and I just went, and I just, and it was a very freeing experience for me. And I think that opened up a lot of opportunities in my mind, and saying like, hey, the gym is not necessarily a bad place. The gym is a place where you can definitely get fit. You can definitely meet a great community of people. You can definitely meet your goals, but also there's a whole nother world outside the gym as well that I think a lot of people don't really take as much advantage of. And so, it's like, okay, there's a hill on my street, right? Like, what can I do with that hill? Right? Like there's so many opportunities and things that you can do on that hill that most people will look at it and they say, oh, there's a hill, right? It's just a hill. So right, right. There's a hill, I want to climb it. There's a tree, I want to climb it. There's a my kid, something I posted on Instagram the other day was, you know, um, my daughter's slide, right? She has a slide in the backyard, and I'm like, okay, I've got really 20 minutes, right, between doing this and having to get this done. I'm just gonna go outside and I'm just gonna do some army crawls underneath it, and then I'm gonna jump, do some vertical jumps over it, and then crawl back under, and then I might go and climb a tree, and then I'm gonna go do some, duck walks down the yard, and then I'm gonna sprint back, right? And so like saying like, hey, like I don't need much in order to be able to be fit or be healthy. Mm, good question. Hmm. 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 Well, I think it's a meshing of a few things, right? Like first of all, like what is the goals, right? Like what are the overarching goals of the client? Because with that is going to depend upon programming, my programming structure. So there might be some people that are going to want more of just an overall general fitness, right? They just want to be fit, they just want to live healthy. And then I have someone else that wants to learn how to do a handstand, right? How can I learn how to do a handstand? How can I do a muscle up on the gymnastic rings? How can I do more skill specific work, right? And so their programming is going to look a little different because skill specific work is going to have to take priority, right? And take a little bit more time. Whereas general programming might look like, okay, I'm going to, yes, what do you ultimately have at your disposal, right? So, like, what are your goals? What do you have available to you, right? So, you might have maybe like a door chin up bar at home that you can use. Maybe you have a 4x4 in your garage, right? Um, and maybe you have, uh, a bag of play sand in your garage or something like that. Or maybe you have, you can go out and buy a $5 bag of play sand, right, to use as a sandbag, right? So what do you have currently with you? And then what are your goals, of course? And then structuring things can go from there. So, I have, depending upon what you're looking to do, I can structure programming differently. So you might break it up to where it's going to be, okay, we're going to start on off with, of course, your warm up, a good dynamic warm up, and then we might move into just some more like animal type movements. So it might be like things like bear crawls. It might be things, some fundamental things like hanging from a bar. It might be hanging from a tree limb, right? If you have that at your house, and then it also might be some balance work, right? Like I'm a really big proponent of balance, and so I love using like 4x4s to be able to do balance work, and that's something that's super cheap that you can pick up, at Home Depot. Um, so that might be something like that, and then um, we might work from there also a little power. So it could be some jumping, in there. It can be, if you do have like a sandbag or you have bands right to your disposal, it might do a little power work. Then from there, maybe it's jumping into more of your strength work. So not exhausting yourself with the beginning, but just kind of prepping the body and getting you in the groove for your strength work, and then hitting your strength work hard. And then from there, it might be a finisher, might be more of a metabolic finisher. It could be some sprints. It could be, or it could be more if a person wants more accessory work, right? They want to, or if they have an area that's a little lagging behind, and they want to do a little extra here. So once again, there's so many different frameworks that you work from, but it really kind of comes down to goals. It comes down to what you have available to you, and then that's how and then from there, I can, not only program but also coach you week to week through how to progress those things. Because a lot of times, what a lot of people don't understand and don't know is that once they begin getting into more advanced like body weight training, how do you progressively overload? Right? How do you begin making more gains if you can already do 20 pull-ups? Right? If you're able to do that, you're like, oh man, like how do I now get stronger? If so So understanding how to decrease leverage, within your own body weight in order for you to be able to progress and see progression, right? And so it's different than throwing another 5 pounds on the bar, right? That's really easy to monitor, right? It's easy for me to be like, okay, we're going to add 5 pounds, we're going to add 10 pounds, we're going to do this movement a little bit differently like this, in order for you to see progression here, right? So it's completely different than standard traditional weight training sometimes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think balancing is one of the most underrated areas of health and well-being. To be honest, uh, very infrequently are we doing, um, you know, are we doing things like a bilateral squat, right? Or a bilateral back squat, or, and not to say that that is a bad thing. It's not. Those things can get you strong too. But oftentimes where it's more unilateral patterns or single leg patterns that we're working from our day-to-day life. I think of, just picking my kid, my 9-month-old kid off the floor, who he's a hoss, and so, I've got to make sure that I'm braced properly, right? And generally, whenever I'm not even really thinking about it a lot of times when I'm picking them off the floor. But after I pick them up, sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, like, how did I just pick them up off the floor, right? And a lot of times it's in a staggered stance position. It is, one foot. Sometimes like I have to get them out of the bathtub, right? And that can be interesting. I'm like turning, right? But then also like, okay, I'm whenever I get out of the car, or pulling groceries out of the car sometimes, like these little day-to-day things in life that I do to pick things up off the ground, or to reach up to put something in the cabinet, just to be able to, just the little minute things that a lot of times we don't think about, all takes balance. Like, it really does take balance. And we know that as if we don't practice balance over our lifespan, we can lose a lot of balance gains as we begin to age and get older, right? And so I think from a general health and wellness and well-being perspective, to always take care of those things too is super, super important. And so a lot of times what I'll do is, you know I will, it kind of actually going back to thinking about like running, right? Running, I am, kind of with my background, I enjoy running. And what we got to think about whenever I'm running, right, is a single leg stance as well, right? I'm in a balanced single leg stance, right? I might not be on the ground for that long, but how stable am I, right? How balanced am I over my foot? And so that's important for whether you're an athlete or whether you're a person that is just jogging, wants to stay injury free or healthy. And so, but kind of going back, yeah, walking, right? It's the basic, things, necessities in life. And, you think back to kids, like our kids as they're getting older, right? Like, the one thing that they're learning to do right now, once they transition from crawling, is to what? Is to balance. They're even balancing in crawling, right? And so balancing doesn't even have to just take, being, on our feet. It can be very much in more of a crawl pattern, right? How balanced are you? Go ahead and throw a 4x4 on the ground and try to bear crawl on a 4x4. how easy is that, right? And so what happens is that's going to light your core up, right? Like that's going to light up all the balancing musculature that your body needs in order for you to live healthy, right? So it's function, right? It's and I really don't love using that term nowadays, like functional, because I think a lot of times people can misuse it. Um, and But it really is, balance really is a functional aspect of our life, right? To be able to live healthy.
I love that you mentioned that. Yeah, this is speaking to my PT nature. Um, with with the loss over time, and that balance really is, there's a couple there's a bunch of components, but really when you're working on improving someone's balance as they've already lost it, maybe you're older and you've lost it, is exposure is one of the big things, exposing a person
Mm-hmm.
to the balance. There are other things such as, if you have issues with eyesight, or if issues in mobility, or issues in a vestibular, which is your inner ear, um, function, that's going to limit your balance. But then there's exposure and strength, and how your body perceives where it is in space. And as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you put yourself in these positions, your body has to figure out how to control itself in that position. And
Mm-hmm.
again, as you mentioned, the core lights up, and hopefully it should light up, but hopefully it lights up. Some people, it lags a little bit, but um, you know, I had said walking, and somebody may think like, there's not much balance in walking, but how many times um, have you walked with someone and they, veer from side to side, or they kind of sway? That's either a vestibular issue or a balance issue. They're not stable. And so, yeah, it's so important to work on balance, and that, like you said, offset positions, because again, you don't necessarily like using the
Mm-hmm.
word functional, but it is, everyday life function: picking a baby out of a bathtub, picking a baby out of a car, picking up groceries, doing yard work, reaching around something in a squatted position to grab something.
Mm-hmm.
All those things require a ton of balance, coordination, core strength. um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's refreshing to hear someone bring that up, because as you mentioned, it is kind of underrated, and I really appreciate that you brought that up. Thank you.
And I will say, Bill, as well, that with balance, I think one of the things within the fitness industry that I have seen in the past that I think um, you know I would have to disagree about a little bit, and I would like to see improve would be people not loading single leg movements too quickly. And I think this is for injury prevention purposes.
So you're saying
Um,
you're saying that they do that too early, or they don't do it early enough?
So I have witnessed people doing that a little too early in
Too
a client's in a client's exercise program.
Yeah, yeah,
And not that the movement is a bad movement,
right.
right? So I would say, like, okay, like this balance movement might be a single leg deadlift or a single leg hinge movement, right? And they're so excited to progress their client that and the client wants progression too, so you kind of feel that pressure of both people wanting progression. And then what they'll do is they'll go, okay, now hold these kettlebells, now hold this weight underneath you, and they have not worked on balance enough,
Yeah.
right? Or they have not built up the strength, maybe in their lower back, in their hips, in their hamstrings, and even their shoulders holding the weight, right? And being able to brace the core properly. And so there's a lot of complexities that go into single leg movements, right? And so I just encourage a lot of people to really kind of back it up a lot and just say, like, hey, try to maximize body weight balancing as much as you
Yeah.
can. And there's a lot of different things that you can do with body weight balancing at first. Um, And then once you really get your patterns down, where you become a lot more proficient in that, now let's go ahead and start to maybe add some band tension to it, right? It might be add band tension, which is not, it might not be quite as, forceful as some just kind of dead weight is. Right, you can hold on to a band a little bit easier, and it's not going to really kind of jack you up too much,
Hmm.
right? And then from there, maybe it's progressing to a little bit more weight. Maybe it's progressing to some kettlebells. Maybe it's progressing, But I think a lot of kind of single leg stuff can begin on the floor first, and then you begin progressing to some balancing, and then begin adding weight.
Yeah,
So I think overall, and I know I don't want to spend all day on this for you. I know we got to move on, but
that's okay.
I think it's super important for us to like kind of take a step back, especially as whether you're a trainer, whether you're a client of a trainer, or whether you're just listening in to learn more. I think it's like, let's take a step back and really focus on becoming more proficient. Let's focus on becoming better at movement patterns, because what is the rush, right? Like what are we trying to become Olympians here, right? Like and so I think we want to jump into it so quickly, and we don't want to um, become better and more equipped for doing things that are a bit more progressive.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Thank you for that word of wisdom. Only thing I would add is at the end of that, at the end of kind of all of that, is you say that some people, um, need to work on the single leg and then the balance. I would even argue that some people need to get down to their knees or get down to
Mm.
their hands and knees to be able
Hmm.
to balance before they even start doing single leg stuff. So like, where are you with that? Because if you get into a single leg balance, and one of the things I commonly ask people is, where do you feel it? What are where are you fatiguing, and where are you tight, or what are all that stuff. And if they're not feeling it in the core or the glute, and they're only feeling it in the calf and the hamstring or something, something's not working as well as it could. And so you have to break it down. You have to get them down to their knees. You have to get them down to their hands and knees. Make sure that they can stabilize and use those muscles properly, so that you can build up on it. So yeah, um,
Hmm.
and I really like that you said, what's the rush? Why do you want to progress so fast? And I'm definitely guilty of it, but that's definitely a good reminder for everyone.
I think we all get there. So
Yeah,
we all kind of have that mindset too, and it's
like,
like, okay, like I want to achieve this, I want to get this so quickly, but like,
right,
sometimes we really got to pull back and enjoy the process of
there you
just
go.
almost being a beginner, right? And
Yep,
just relearning and learning, and
yep.
and I still do. I mean, I'll do maybe some weighted single leg work every week. I certainly integrate that, but I also always come back to body weight balancing, right, and body weight single leg work. So anyway, you're never too good to always go back to a lot of basics.
Yeah, no, no, you're not. So you mentioned earlier that you like to eat. You mentioned earlier that your mother taught you to cook. Um,
Mhm.
how does nutrition play a role in, obviously it's individual goals for people, but how do you um, refer or help people get the best information they can for nutrition? I know you're not a nutritionist, you're not a dietitian, so you
Mhm.
can't necessarily prescribe things, but you can help lead them in the right direction. And so I'd love to hear kind of your take on, um, how fitness and nutrition commingle, and how you kind of help guide people towards the right thing.
Mhm. Yeah. So, good question. So, like you say, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist, and I think we have to, or at least where I come from the thought process of like, you eat well and what I mean by that is eat healthy, wholesome foods, right? And I think at this point in time, like we all know what wholesome foods are. Like, most of us do in some way, shape, or form. Like whole grains, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, vegetables, fruits,
Right.
lean meats, right? A lot of us kind of understand that, right? And then there's a lot of conjecture around a lot of different things too, right? Like there's a lot of conjecture about what dairy does to the body. There's conjecture. Some people say like what grains can do, and so there's always new evidences coming out, and it can be very hard to really meander through a lot of this stuff.
Mhm.
And so the biggest thing for me that I always think is like, hey, personally, um, I'm never going to tell a person that they can never have pizza again. Like, I'm not going to say that you cannot have a burger, every week. I'm not going to say that you can't ever again have, a chocolate, or, because
Right.
I too eat those things, right?
Right.
Like it's things that I will continue to eat. But the thing is that that's not the majority of my diet. And understanding that for me, I'm probably about most weeks about 80/20, where I'm eating really solid food, that's really nutritious, all right, that I'm cooking the majority of everything to where I'm not pulling it out of a box, all right, so it's not been as processed. And what I like to do, like right now in the summers, is that we do more of like a farm box that we get delivered. We get a couple farm boxes delivered to our home, and so that helps us to have, because with kids sometimes it's hard to really make it out to the make it out to the supermarket. We got to find a way, right? And so one of those ways is they deliver them to our door, and that is something it's on our countertop, and that money is going to go bad if we do not eat those veggies and we do not eat that fruit. And so it sits out on our table, or in our kitchen. So we definitely remember it, and we choose to cook as much as possible. And so those are things that I do in my life. Now, what I would say, referring to people to say, hey, what kind of resource? I would say, if you're looking for something maybe like online that is that I think is a very good and healthy perspective, precisionnutrition.com is a very, very helpful site. And the reason why I like them is that they're not saying, hey, this is what you can never eat, this is what you have to eat, this is what all these rules about it. It's, let's think about our food. What does our food do for us? Is our food for enjoyment? Is it for fuel? Is it for what does it actually do for our bodies? And how can we get more of these nutritions into our daily diet? Right. So how do I go about making good choices throughout the day? Like, what are practical ways for me to eat? Right. Because, hey, like I struggle, even myself, I struggle with meal prepping at the beginning of the week. Like,
Yeah.
some people are awesome with it, but I struggle with it because I'm exhausted by Sunday evening, right? Like, it doesn't have to be Sunday, but it's like, okay, I'm exhausted with the kids. Like, I just can't, spend hours doing that. I'm like,
Right.
okay, I wanna watch a show with my wife
Right.
tonight. So anyway, what we're gonna do is make sure that I have as much healthy food around me as possible, so I can't make bad decisions.
Yeah.
But I think like precision nutrition, and they're all over the place. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, it's online, but they have great resources. They have these things called infographics, and the infographics are something that you can print off and keep on your wall or keep on your fridge at home, and it'll help you to say like, oh, you should, for a meal, it's healthy to combine this protein with this veggie. And this is a great way to eat. This is a great way to enjoy your weekend. Maybe not all with healthy foods, but you can still enjoy certain things. So So I think there, if anyone's looking for a resource, that is one of my top resources to send people to.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's all. I like the 80/20. I've seen that before. You know, that's everything in life, really. Um, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. You know, and then yeah, definitely have to check out precisionnutrition.com and check out some of the things they have. Um, I want to kind of switch back to another thing we discussed a little bit ago when it comes to mindset. You had talked about how at the first 50 miles are with your legs, the second 50 miles are with your mindset. When people are just getting into trying to get themselves into, you know, some people who are like want a very specific goal, who want a very specific skill, they probably have some of that motivation. It comes down to kind of why they're doing it. Um,
Mhm.
but when it comes to people who are like, I need to change my life, I need to improve my body, improve my ability to move, improve my strength, um, so that they can achieve their why. What are some of the things that you find are the hardest things to address when it comes to mindset? And then how are some ways that you help people with mindset, whether it's motivation, discipline, or consistency?
Yeah. So for myself, um, I would say the biggest thing for me, and I think for most people, is that if you're not consistently staying with something, right, you will generally consistently fail at something. So, um, I've noticed over the years, for me personally, that I struggle with staying fit or finding workout opportunities or workout session opportunities if I do not do it first thing in the morning. And so what I do is that I'm going to make sure that I set up my day appropriately. Um, I have the early shift when my son wakes up. He tends to wake up between 5 and 5:30. So, and I'm an early riser anyway. But what I'll do is make sure that, okay, handling him in the morning, got to have my coffee. All right. No doubt about it. Got to have my coffee. But, I know that I do, coffee. I'll do a little bit of reading if I can in the morning. It's getting a little bit more difficult. He's wanting to crawl at this point in time, and he likes to just scream at me if he's not in some way, shape, or form moving himself. So anyway, after coffee, reading a little bit, I'm going to head outside or head into the garage and get going, and I'm going to get moving. And that's the one thing that I feel helps me the most with consistency, because I notice that if I miss those in the morning, then those opportunities and those short windows, like if I kind of slack off and I'm like, okay, like, I'm just gonna maybe watch a show in the morning, or or read a little too much, read the news and start scrolling through Facebook or social media, whatever it is, you start losing track of time. What happens is that now your day's flying by, right? And all of a sudden it's now like 6 p.m. Dinner's got to be made. Like, got to put the kids in the bed, and like by the time I'm done with that whole scenario, like I'm exhausted, and I'm like, well, tomorrow. There's tomorrow, right? And I think that is a very, very common thing that happens with most people, right? Is that we want to do something, we want to be consistent in something, we want to progress in something, but a lot of times if we don't schedule that time, we will oftentimes miss out on opportunities to stay consistent. So, so I think it's super important for you for you to block off that time, whatever that is to you. Some people like could never imagine working out like first thing in the morning, or at 6 a.m. Whereas some people are like, I've got to be, it's got to be after work. It's got to be at 4 p.m. Whatever it is for you, make sure that you block that off. And those around you also know that that's your time as well, and that you need to have that, because what is going to happen more times than anything else is that something's going to come up. You'll get distracted. People are going to want your attention. Work is going to want this, that, or the other from you, right? And what'll happen is that you can easily get sidetracked and do all these other things. But you got to remember that, hey, if you're blocking it off with these people, everyone else around you has that respect and understanding that that's kind of your time. And so I think on top of that too, there's a couple other things. I think it's very beneficial for some people to have a workout partner or a workout buddy that they do something with. It could also be a small group class. I know during these times of COVID, it's been pretty difficult, to do some of that stuff, but you could still socially distance, and do some things with a partner or a group. And another thing is that, having a coach really does, can help motivate you as well. And what I mean by that is that, if you're a person that maybe you have thrived off coaching in the past, maybe you went to a gym, right? And you had a trainer that you can't work with now. Maybe you've had a coach and you were in a small group class, and it's like not possible to do some of that stuff right now, right? Having a person that's going to be, you can be accountable with, maybe it's a daily basis, maybe it's a check-in, a couple times a week, once a week, talk with your coach, find a good coach, talk with them and saying, hey, this is what I need. And that's one of the things that I always ask anyone that I'm working with. And I always say, hey, what kind of accountability do you need? Right? Like what do you personally need? Because everyone needs something different. And it can be, I need just a check-in. I need a text every day. Mm-hmm. Or it might be, I just need a weekly check-in with you. So I think making sure that you put those things into place, it takes a little planning. It can take planning. All right. But you need to reserve your time. You got to find time, or else a day's going to catch up to you. And then you got to find something that's going to help keep you accountable.
Yeah. Definitely. I love all those answers, and that ties in discipline as well, making sure that you're doing all of that. What about, I don't know if you've dealt with this much. Have you experienced or had people come to you and not necessarily been confident or have had belief that they can do certain things? Whether it is the last set of a exercise or, even an exercise at all. And how do you deal with that?
I'm probably going to go back to a time when I was doing a lot more of the like 5K, half marathon, and marathon training programs. We had a 5K beginner group. It was more kind of like a couch to 5K program, and I was the coach for it. And I remember a woman coming into the store. She was always kind of afraid to come into the store, right? Because she thought this is a store just for runners. And she thought that we were going to look down on her because everyone that worked there was in shape. Everyone was a runner. And we were promoting these programs. And, we had talked to her and spoke with her about it. We say, hey, I'm going to call her Sally. Sally, we would love for you to join our Couch to 5K program. I think it'd be a great fit for you and what you're and what you can do, at this time. And so she was very, very hesitant. And I remember, she eventually signed up for the program, and she started that 5K program as just walking. Like she wasn't really doing any kind of running at all. And I remember she was so skeptical of belief in her own self, right? And what she could accomplish and what she can do. And that could stem from anything in life, right? That can stem from a lot of things, maybe in your past and your history that have come up, and maybe it was people saying things to you or bullying you as a kid. Like these things can stretch mentally, and you can have these mental games because maybe you weren't ever an athlete, or someone, like I was saying, is treated you a certain way. So there might be all these things in your head, and for Sally, I didn't quite know what that was, but I knew that she didn't believe in herself.
Mhm.
And I just remember that she ended up within, it was about a 6-week period, nearly running the entire 5K race. She went from a complete walker, all right, and she was not in shape. And she was gassed at the end, right? Right? But she like nearly ran the entire race. And there was tear in her eyes, at the very end. And it was just a magical moment for her to see that she was able to overcome that fear and
Yeah.
that mindset that she had. And I think a lot of it came down to someone and helping her, first of all, helping her to believe in herself, first of all, and saying you can do this, and that being a constant thing, that being a weekly thing, and saying no, you can do this, no, you can't, and the going was getting tough, right, and things were seeming impossible. Oh, okay, we got to do this another interval, Sally. We've got to go another 1 minute on, 1 minute off. All right. No, I don't think I could do any more. Yes, we're going to do it. You can do it. Right. And then on top of that, everyone else in the group was just an awesome support network of people that were just saying, Sally, that was so amazing. Like, you did so great today. Right. And I think those affirmations, right, and who you surround yourself with, and being within somewhat of a positive tribe, and having, positive coaching, things of that nature, really, really helps to change the mindset for you to be able to begin, overcoming a lot of barriers that really aren't barriers. They're barriers that you've kind of set up in your own mind.
Mhm.
And real quickly, just a story from my one of my 100-mile races that I was doing. There was a point that probably about mile 70 that I was like, okay, I'm on the second half here, and I completely like bonked. Like I felt like I was just gonna drop. I was gonna have to DNF, did not finish, right? Because I felt so bad. I felt so horrible, and I remember like, okay, I've got the nighttime that I got to get through, by myself with only my headlamp out in the wilderness and mountainous terrain, and right, and there was a woman that came up beside me at that point. She was it was somewhat of like a guardian angel. I kind of felt like, but she just stopped her pace like that she was going. She could have easily gone past me. She stopped next to me and just walked with me. And she goes, you know what you're going to do? You're going to finish this race. No matter what it's going to take, you are going to finish this race. Now, what I want you to do is I'm going to start jogging, and I want you to stay on my heels. And I want you just to, don't even think, just move to my cadence, to move to my pace. And so ends up like I started I started with her, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. So I stayed with her for about 4 miles, just trailing her. And then all of a sudden, like it was like a light bulb kicked in, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like I literally began to believe that like I am going to do this. It was just a rough patch.
Mhm.
Right? I was in a bad spot mentally at that time. And so it doesn't matter what your fitness level is, right? It doesn't matter if you're just starting off, or if it doesn't matter if you're an Olympian. We still have mental barriers, right? That we can all hit at different points. It's just how do we get through those? And I think a lot of that comes from, making sure that we have people rooting for us, and we have positivity around us that believes in us.
That's such a great message. Yeah, thank you so much for that. It does come down to that. You're right, and so many true things. The affirmations, consistent tribe of positivity, the coaching and being told that you can, and helping people understand what they can ultimately do, or give them that little extra oomph as that guardian angel gave you. So that's a great message.
Mm.
So I want to kind of jump into a couple different types of questions, kind of more towards how you interact with your clients. And I guess the one that I would, you talked about how you might change your field. You mentioned how you might be a little bit differently in terms of how you really train minimalistically, in ways, not always, but certain
Mm-hmm.
ways. I guess
Mm-hmm.
tell me some of the things that are your favorite things about helping people with their fitness goals.
So some of the things that I love the most is um, helping people. I think we just kind of jumped ahead a little bit within having people believe in themselves, right? Um, Seeing people, reach certain goals that they never thought were possible, and it was because they were consistent. They put their head down and did the work, right? They put in the work. They showed up and they just did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that is something that I love seeing, those aha moments, right, where people are just like, man, like that just happened. Like that was
Yeah.
incredible. Like that was awesome. Like that was really awesome. That was and a lot of times those aha moments, and there could be, so many of those, right, that we could talk about, but it's like one of those things to where like when you have an aha moment, that can like really change you, right? And it can change not only what you can do physically, but it kind of opens up your mindset to also doing other things. Like, for instance, one of my passions with working with people is helping them to have the ability to be able to pursue things that they're more passionate about, or pursue things that they want to do in life. And so what I
Could you give me an example?
love doing is being able to, yeah. So what I love seeing is people that uh, they uh, maybe struggled with their health and wellness, through their fitness, and they are now able to go on a weekend trip, and now they're able to go surfing, right? They're able to go and paddle out because they're healthy enough and learn how to surf. Maybe it's someone that wants to go and do something like rock climb, right? And go to a rock climbing gym. They never were able to because they struggle with hanging, and so like these little things, right? Sometimes it's even as simple as hanging with your kids, right? And being able to do the things that your kids are doing, and being able to, that's one of my goals in life, right? One of my goals is to be able to as I get older, like be able to, swing a bat with my son, and being able to, you know, continue to run. My daughter loves to run, being able to run with my daughter. She also loves to dance, so probably learning tap dancing and stuff like that, right, with her. But having the ability to be capable, right, to be capable for activities that you never thought were possible in your life. And I think that's huge, because a lot of people, they say, no, I can't do that. I can't do that activity because internally in their mind they're saying that's a barrier, right? Because I'm out of shape. I can't do that because how am I ever gonna go rappelling or rock climb, because I can't even hold myself up on a bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I I'm and so there's all these things that a lot of people say that, oh, I can never go for a hike in the woods, in the mountains, because my legs are too weak,
Mm-hmm.
right? I love when people are able to change their life and have more of an adventurous life
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy their life more, and being able to be a part of helping people achieve those things.
That's a wonderful thing to be passionate about, and I am very much on board with you. That is exactly very, very similar to what I strive to do. So, I love that answer. And it's definitely a nice thing to be able to wake up and go out and do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. What would you say that, what are some things that you're doing in the community to promote health and wellness?
To promote it, so um,
Yeah,
so
besides, your individual clients,
right,
um, yeah, so outside of
right.
your main focus, what are some things that
Mm-hmm.
whether you're doing or whether you have a dream of doing, what are some things that
Right.
you want to be able to do to help promote people being able to achieve that life,
Right.
that they desire, a fulfilled life, a life where they can do things because they are fit enough and able?
Mm-hmm. Um, well, I will say that I have for a while been associated, and I had also worked with an organization here in Raleigh that we did a lot with youth.
Hmm.
We did a lot with youth training, and a lot of it was very much a free service, for them, and also for one thing that I'd love to do for like adults and also potentially youth as well is beginning to offer more a like in the park classes, whether it's you know uh, just within our neighborhoods here. That's one of the first things that I'm actually working on right now is gathering people to be able to have opportunities to be fit in the park when they might not have an opportunity to be a part of a gym at this
Hmm.
current time. um, and um, and so I'm looking at different possibilities right now, and parks around the vicinity and area as to where that can be and where we can all be able to meet up in that way to still be able to live healthy, socially distanced, and fit lives with that. So that's currently some of the things that I am a part of. I right now would also would love to begin leading some seminars, and that could be anything at some businesses, whether it be lunch and learns too, um, and various health topics it can be on, but also ways that we can how can we live a healthier lifestyle, with modern day times, right? Because things have certainly changed, and how do we do this better? Um, Also, potentially doing some weekend seminar things as well, to be able to, and that could be outdoors as well. So there's a lot of different ideas right now that I kind of have uh, rummaging around in my mind, and if anyone wants to, certainly talk about some of these things or what that could potentially look like too, you can certainly go ahead and contact me, and I'm sure that at the end we'll talk about contact,
Hmm.
and ways that you can get in contact with me. I'd love to talk about some of those things, but yeah. So as far as right now goes, those are some of the things
That's
I've been
great.
doing.
Yeah, you mentioned two really important things: how do we live a healthy life in the modern environment, and then also, uh, a focus, not only a focus, not a focus, but a exposure to the youth. And I think it's so important to change the perception and, the obesity that our country has is an issue. And so helping
Hmm.
the younger generations enjoy and understand, you know, fitness and being physical and continuing to play and continuing to exercise, and that it's good and healthy, and making it, a part of
Hmm.
their regular life, as regular as brushing your teeth, I think is so important down the line. What
Hmm.
are Yeah. So, what are three other passions you have in life besides your family, friends, and career?
Hmm, it's a good question. I would say one is music. I
Cool.
love I love music. I love finding new bands. I think finding new music and um, you know I'm a person that I love hearing different sounds, different genres,
Hmm.
and um, really trying to broaden my perspective as to what's out there.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not a person that just listens to one genre at all.
Yeah.
So that's certainly one passion.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, I'd say another one is just being out in nature, and I will get this as much as humanly possible. Certainly a huge passion of mine, and that is, whether it's surfing. I love surfing. One of my favorite things to do. Um, whether it's going on a hike with my family.
Hmm.
Um, you know, sorry, that was family related. I'm trying to stay away from
That's okay.
passion with the family. But
You can do
but
these
whether
things
it's
with your family. You can definitely do these things
right.
with your family. That's fine. I'm sure you don't.
uh,
I'm sure you don't only wear headphones all around the house. I'm sure your kids listen to music too. So
right. Yeah, no. So I, as much as I can get outside and get into nature and do any kind of activity, is what I love. Whether it's mountains or ocean, I love it all.
mm.
And then I'd say the next one would be coffee. I'm a big like coffee fan, and being a parent, I drink lots of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so no, I've experienced a love for coffee for many
Yeah.
years now.
Yeah. Definitely. During when I work on thinking about things that I'm grateful for, coffee comes up a lot. So I'm right there with you, my man. What are three books that you enjoy to recommend or gift?
So my personal favorites um, has as I would say first one is a kid's book. It's many know it, The Giving Tree. Uh, but it's a beautiful story, about how a relationship with a boy and a tree, and growing up, how the tree continues to give over the lifespan of the boy as he ages, and and so it's just one of those stories that I love, absolutely love, not only reading myself, but I love reading to my daughter and
Yeah.
son, because it's one of those things that you know uh, the whole moral of it is just amazing.
Yeah.
Um, the next one is to How to Stay Alive in the Woods.
Hmm.
How to Stay Alive in the Woods pretty much gives you the majority of survival strategies humanly possible. Like if you were somehow stranded out there, and I think it's just cool because it has cool pictures too. Or it has diagram pictures. I'm a person that loves picture reading. All right, so the more pictures I have in have in a book, definitely not like a novel reader,
Yeah.
but I need illustrations. Let's
Yeah.
just say that.
My wife
Um,
makes fun of me for that. So, have you ever
yeah,
read?
yeah, it's
Sorry, have you ever read 4 Hour Chef?
I have not.
Yeah,
No.
I
Do I
think
need
based
to?
on what you just said and kind of all like, I think you'd really like it. It's a lot of pictures. It's essentially it's like an encyclopedia of how to cook, whether you
Mm,
are in the woods or in a high end, um, you know, in a high end kitchen or something, and then all sorts of other different survival things. So it might be something interesting.
mm,
Just yeah, I
nice.
of note. Yeah, it's by Tim Ferriss.
Absolutely. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Of course, he's Mr. 4 Hour.
that's right. That's right.
Mr. Efficiency. Um, and then I would, so my third book that I would say would be I live and model my life by the Bible, so that would be my third book.
All right. Great. Not I've many people recommend that as their favorite book, and it's on the bestseller list, right? So
Yep.
it's got to have some good lessons throughout it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Whether you believe or not, you could still get some good lessons out of it. So
that's right. That's right. If you could be changing the vibe for a second, if you could be an animal, what would you be? What animal would you be, and why?
if I could be an animal, what animal could I be? I don't know. Maybe like a ferret or something.
What?
Um,
Why?
they're so sly. Like
Okay,
they have opposable thumbs as well, so they can really kind of get into anything.
I didn't know that.
Um, the only reason why I bring it up is because so whenever I was living out in California in my younger years, my roommate had this pet ferret that was in the living room, and I didn't like it whatsoever. And the reason why I didn't like the weasel was because it would literally find a way to get out of its cage. I don't know how, and then it would disappear in the house, and it would be able to get underneath the door. I would often open up my dresser, and it would like jump out of the dresser. Like I don't know how it got in, but 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 anyway, I mean, it would find itself in anything, and it could practically do anything. But anyway, besides that, that's pretty cool. I do like. I think being a monkey would be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Um,
I just know
so
you can stay. You could be a ferret. I just was not expecting that. That's why I had the reaction. I don't think I've ever
right.
heard anyone say that. So, but I knew friends who had a ferret in school, and that ferret was able to get into the rafters of the house, and yeah, it got into everything. So it's if you want to be elusive and sly, yeah, absolutely, it's one way
There's
to be.
almost nothing a ferret like can't do
There you go.
besides fly,
Fly. Yeah.
but if I can like morph a ferret and a monkey together, like there's a possibility there
There you
of
go.
something happening. So who knows? I'll probably think of another cool animal to hybrid it with whenever we get off
That's
this
okay.
conversation.
Yeah. Um, if you eat, do you eat ice cream? What is your favorite ice cream?
Hmm. So I would say milk and cookies from Ben and Jerry's.
Interesting. I don't think I ever had it.
Milk and cookies changed my life, and that comes with a tear too. Um, so that I love. Yeah, I would say that's my favorite. I love any kind of cookie dough too.
Right on, man. Right on. Awesome. Um, do you have any promotions or offers that people could take you up on, and what person should come work with you if I run across someone, if anybody who hears this episode hears and says, hey, you'd be great to work with Patrick. um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, what promotions do you have to offer, and what type of people are those offers best for?
Mm-hmm. So I'd say people that would enjoy working with me and maybe my style are going to be those that don't mind trying new things and having an openness to trying new things. Also, not feeling like they have to be dependent upon tools to be able to get into shape. So not to say that we wouldn't use tools. It's just that would be secondary or tertiary. So it might be something where having openness to really progressing a lot of body weight movements to really exploring other areas, kind of like we talked about before, maybe doing some balance work, which a lot of people don't do at the beginning of the workouts. And so doing some of that, people that want to do maybe more skill-based training, and skill-based training could be anything from, learning the new skills of how to do a handstand, how to do a muscle up, how to do forward rolls, how to do certain things that are fun as well. But ultimately, those that are looking to get a lot of attention as well. So I like to give my clients a lot of attention and make sure I'm meeting them where they're at, and them just being excited to trying and doing new things. So anyway, that would be really good. I would say if you're looking for more of like traditional lifting things, I mean, I can give you a laundry list of things that are going to work for you and would be fine programming. But I think my lane and my passion tends to be, really helping you, first of all, finding out areas where you may need a little bit more work and strength in, and kind of building that foundation, and then from there advancing into other things that might require a whole lot less equipment or nothing at all, right? So that's so if you like working out at home and doing home things,
kind of we're all doing now.
That's great. That's great. People that are working out from home, or if you have like limited time too, and you want to maximize your time, workout sessions. I think a lot of people think they have to be, 2 hours long. They have to even be 45 minutes long for them to be effective, and that's not true, right? And so I think just making sure that you maximize the time that you have is important. And then another thing that I do as well, if I'll do free assessment work for you. So if you're wanting to work in person, certainly meeting together and just doing an assessment to see where you're at with things, and seeing, okay, maybe where your strength is at, where your cardiovascular level is, where your stability level is, your core control, things of that nature. And even if you want to do things remotely, I can still do a free online assessment too. It would just be sending videos and you sending videos back as well. Or we could schedule something in person through Zoom. So there's different ways that we can do it, but that's a good start.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I think that's an excellent offer. And yeah, people should take that up on you. Something, I was just writing down some things that, I wish we would have gotten into, but just because time, I know you have some history of learning some gymnastics motions. You mentioned handstand, ring, different things like that, as well as mobility work. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that in the past. So I want people to know that, you really do have an eclectic, a very vast array of doing things, and you definitely work on not only the strength and the endurance and all that stuff, but you also work on addressing the things that people need to achieve in order to continue to progress, like mobility and endurance and all that stuff. So just want to kind of throw that out. I do highly recommend checking out your Instagram page. So is that the best way to get a hold of you? Are there any other ways that people can get a hold of you, whether they have questions, want to see what types of workouts you do, or want to work with you? What are the best ways?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can, for my Instagram page, you can go to @Patrick Dellapace and find me there. And you can reach me through email. It's probably going to be the best way, and that's Patrick, that's PATRICK .Dellapace, DELLAPACE @gmail.com. And feel free to reach out and get in contact with me at any time. And you can direct message me through Instagram as well. So those would be the best modes that I would say.
Awesome. Thank you. One last question I don't want to forget to ask. If you were to have a billboard on the side of a very busy highway, what would that billboard say that massive amounts of people get to see each day?
I'd say, and that was a good question.
I stole it.
Um, yeah, you didn't tell me this prehand.
I know
So
I didn't.
you just threw this one at me.
I
No,
want
I
to
would.
be point.
So I would really say, like, going back to I don't know if you guys have watched Joe Dirt, but he says, "Keep on keeping on,"
Love it.
right? Keep on keeping on, and I say that because it's all about consistency, right? With the name of the game, with health and wellness and moving well for years to come, is the more consistent we can stay with it. And that's not, oh, we have to slam our bodies every day to work so hard and kill ourselves, right? That's not the point of it. It's are we moving every day? Are we making strides consistently, right? Are we keeping on, right? Keep on keeping on to be able to keep ourselves healthy for years to come.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Keep on keeping on. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Patrick, I could talk to you more and more about, some of those other topics that we talked about, health and wellness, consistency, and all that. And I really, again, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And everyone else, thank you for listening. And for now, be well and thrive.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, Bill.